Victoria couldn't understand why her sleeping prince, after being in a coma for 3 years, would want a divorce as soon as he woke up. She had been by his side every day, even spending the equivalent of Maseratis on caregivers to prevent his muscles from stiffening with daily massages. Only I knew how Victoria truly treated me. Sincere had been in a coma for 3 years with no signs of recovery. Even his family advised Lady V to give up. But Victoria remained devoted and unwavering. She truly loved Sincere deeply, and they had grown up together. Sincere was so fortunate to have Victoria's open affection since childhood. It was said that Victoria was planning their wedding, eager to become Sincere's rightful wife. How moved he would be upon waking up. Outside the hospital room, the nurse's chatter faded away, but tears soaked my pillow. I said, "System, I don't want to wake up. Let me return to the mission world." The system replied, "Host, are you out of your mind with joy? You went through hell and back to complete the mission, and now you can finally wake up to be with Victoria." But then, the system's mechanical voice was overtaken by shock as it gaped at the sight in the room. On the sofa, a naked couple lay entwined. The system exclaimed, "Host, isn't that your fiancée?" I said, "Yes, I recognize her voice and presence. 6 years ago, on the eve of our wedding, Victoria was in a car accident and fell into a coma. I cared for her for 3 years as her condition worsened. Tears streaming down her face, she followed the gurney back to the hospital room, clinging tightly to her lost and found treasure. Her head was deeply buried in my shoulder, her tears mingling with her warm breath on my skin. She said, 'Sincere, I almost thought I was going to lose you. Do you know you've been asleep for 3 years? I searched the world for doctors, but none could find the reason for your coma. They said you might just be too tired. Sincere, I'm sorry, it's all because of me. Please don't leave me again.'" Victoria hugged me for a moment longer, then let go to take a good look at me before wrapping her arms around me once more, over and over, as if afraid I would vanish. She kept pouring out her love for me. She said, "During these 3 years, I was constantly worried about losing you. I would die without you." In those many little worlds, she endlessly imagined our reunion, and each time she would hold me tightly, just like now. I was filled with joy, thinking I would soon find happiness, never expecting to face such a bloody betrayal. The embrace that once held endless affection now felt like a cold, slippery snake squeezing me painfully, leaving me nauseated and breathless. She even carried the scent of Ethan's cigarettes, which brought back the filthy words from their passionate night. Dirty. Too dirty. I couldn't help but push her away abruptly and turn to vomit. Victoria, frightened, ran around serving tea and water, carefully wiping the corners of my mouth, occasionally stealing cautious glances at me. She hesitated several times before finally gathering the courage to ask, "Did you hear anything last night?" I looked up, catching the guilt and panic in her eyes. Could she be afraid? Then why choose to pursue such thrills right by my sickbed? Was she certain I wouldn't wake up or believed I wouldn't leave? The system said, "Host, we've found it. The heir of the Chen Corporation will pass away in half a month and be reincarnated. I've made arrangements with the heavens. Once Zachary dies, you can possess his body. The Chen Corporation is far stronger than the G family. Half a month, huh? In half a month, I would have a new identity." I stared at the woman in front of me, now healthy and vibrant, a stark contrast to the frail, lifeless figure she was 3 years ago. I asked, "System, what will happen to her if I take back my wish?" The system replied, "She'll revert to being a sleeping prince." I paused and the system curiously asked, "Host, do you regret it?" I said, "I'm just lamenting." I bound myself to the system and traveled to another world to heal her and spend a lifetime with her. Now I've personally reclaimed the credits I spent for her, and she will become a sleeping prince once more, just like 3 years ago, silently fading away. How did two people who loved each other so much end up like this? My eyes grew hot, and I quickly lowered my head, fighting back tears. The system comforted me. "Host, this was Victoria's destiny all along. Speaking of which, the villain from the first world chased you through world after world. I found her far more devoted than Victoria. I advised you to consider her, but you remained unmoved. What a pity." Victoria's heart sank as she waited in vain for my response, regretting her inability to resist temptation last night in the hospital room, right before I woke up. She thought, "No, it's impossible," he heard. She thought, "Sincere no matter what, you are the only husband I recognize." Now, all Victoria wanted was to hasten the wedding to dispel this inexplicable unease. She no longer cared about traditional customs and formalities, her expression intensely serious and determined. She said, "I'll return to the family to prepare. On the day you're discharged, I'll immediately come to discuss our marriage. Our wedding has been delayed for 6 whole years. I can't wait any longer, Sincere." Without waiting for my reaction, she got up and hurriedly left the hospital room. The door hadn't been closed for long when Papa H and Mama L rushed in, confirming that I was awake. Papa H sighed with relief, saying, "Good, you're awake, good." My heart softened slightly, recalling the love and care from my father before I turned 5. I was their first child, born into a world of love and anticipation. But then Papa H continued to mutter under his breath, "Eddie is 28 now. We can't keep delaying." Eddie, Ethan. Of course it's about him again. I forced a bitter smile. What do they want me to do for Ethan this time? My parents and sister have already given everything to him, and I've been a blood bank for 20 years. Isn't that enough? I'm on the brink of death. I don't want to ask if my parents remember who their real son is. Every time I protested, all I received in return was, "Ungrateful, spoiled brat." Just because in a car accident when I was 5, the driver died from severe injuries, and they said the driver died saving me. They said Ethan was pitiful, and I owed Ethan a life. But what was my sin? If I could choose, I would rather have died 23 years ago. Mama L, seeing me silent with my head down, voiced her dissatisfaction. "You don't even greet your parents when you see them? We rushed here to find you as soon as possible. It's outrageous, lying in bed for years and you still haven't changed your naughty ways." I had long stopped hoping for so-called maternal love, but my heart still ached. I suppressed my turbulent emotions and asked, "Just tell me, what do you need me to do?" Mama L, without considering if I, just awakened, could bear it, went straight to the point. "Sincere, I'm not afraid to tell you. Eddie and Victoria are together. While you were in a coma for the past few years, half alive, Victoria didn't dare to make it public. Now that you're awake, let them be." Each word was like a heavy hammer shattering my heart into pieces. Turns out everyone knew about Ethan and Victoria. My voice was hoarse and grating as I cried, "I'm the one who was betrayed and hurt, yet now I'm blamed for delaying them." Mama L said, "You've been in a coma for 3 years. Do you expect others to wait for you for 3 years? Her face was full of disapproval, her eyes brimming with disappointment. She said, "Eddie is not like you. He's not a biological member of the family. He can't aim too high or too low. Missing out on Victoria, what do you expect him to do? He's already wasted too much of his youth on her. Sincere, you can't be so selfish." She concluded with, "This is what you owe Eddie." I looked up at my so-called parents and asked, "If I die, do I still owe him?" She replied, "Oh, are you planning to threaten us with death?" Papa H, furious, bombarded me with criticism. "It's been 3 years. Do you think Victoria still likes you? Marrying you was an act of kindness. How long do you plan to hold her hostage with gratitude? You've never given us peace of mind since you were a child. Why can't you learn to be as filial and sensible as Eddie, you ungrateful child?" Overcome with sorrow, I asked, "How do you want me to fulfill their wishes?" Mama L finally smiled and said, "We've already picked out a marriage partner for you. It's Miss Tiff from the Tiff family, and she's willing to marry you. In a few days you can tell Victoria that you were the one who fell out of love first, so she won't feel guilty and can appreciate Eddie. The Tiff family is no worse than the Victoria family. Once you marry Miss Tiff, you'll understand the good intentions of your parents. We wouldn't harm you." The system chimed in, "Host, don't listen to her." It quickly searched for information and said, "The Tiff family is indeed powerful, but Miss Tiff is mentally unstable. She severely injured her last 2 fiancés. The family is eager for a business alliance with the Tiffs because of their multi-billion-dollar project in the city center. They were worried about public opinion regarding their relationship with Ethan. Your awakening gave them the perfect opportunity to push you into marrying Miss Tiff. They finalized the engagement after meeting with Mr. Tiff. I had taken care of Victoria for 3 years and then slept for another 3, unaware of the Tiff family's secrets. Given the family's influence, I don't believe my parents didn't know about it. Without the system, I might have canceled the engagement due to Victoria's change of heart and resigned myself to marrying Miss Tiff. This is my so-called good father and mother. Papa H said sternly, "What's there to hesitate about? Besides the Vivian and Zachary families, who can match the Tiffs?" Miss Tiff's aunt was the mother of the head of the Zachary family. Although their relationship has cooled due to her tragic death in the head's coma, he woke up yesterday. How could he not support his family? Mama L said joyfully, "Oh, you've latched onto both the Tiff and Zachary families. And you say I'm biased? I've given you the best, you ungrateful child." I looked at her eager eyes, devoid of any hesitation or concern. Were they really so keen to push me into a fiery pit? In truth, Miss Tiff was a lunatic, but so was Victoria. Only I knew the obsessive and terrifying demon lurking within Victoria's heart. Unless I died, I couldn't escape these absurd engagements. I said, "System, I agree with you. I withdraw my wish to make Victoria recover. I will take back my life in half a month. The Zachary company is stronger than all 3 of their families. I refuse to be manipulated any longer." The system replied, "Understood, host." I accepted the proposal from my parents, not wanting to endure their endless scolding for the last 15 days. Once this body dies, the engagement with Victoria will naturally be annulled. On the day I was discharged, I saw my long-lost sister, Melody. Facing her brother who had just recovered, her eyes seemed only guarded. The joy in my heart faded away. Was she worried that my return would cause Ethan to overthink? On the way back, Melody, with a tense face, indeed spoke coldly. "Sincere, Eddie lost his father young and has lived under others' roofs. Don't be fooled by his strong facade, he's actually very fragile inside. He should have had a happy family. Uncle Driver in heaven wouldn't want his son to suffer." I murmured to myself, "Suffer." The frail Ethan received all the attention and love from the family. My original bedroom, study, and art room all went to him. From elementary to college, teachers and classmates assumed I was forced to be his servant and companion. I could have attended an Ivy League school or at least a university near Ethan's, but to be his blood donor, I had to attend a lesser college. Is that suffering? I still remember the first night I was grabbed to give Ethan a blood transfusion. I cried in pain, and Melody cried with me, giving me the candies she had secretly hidden. She said, "Don't cry, brother. Melody is here." Those candies should have been sweet, but recalling them now, they are bitter beyond measure. I tried to hold back my tears, but they fell uncontrollably. I leaned back in the seat, turning my head to look out the car window. "Sister." Cold words from Melody pierced the air. "Don't bully Eddie." When we arrived at the Sincere family home, Ethan was just emerging from the kitchen with a gentle, harmless smile. He said, "Big brother, to celebrate your discharge from the hospital, I've cooked some dishes. Please try them." I looked at the dining table. Fish, shrimp, crabs, scallops, all seafood. Papa H and Mama L beamed with pride and approval, seeing nothing wrong with the spread. Ethan asked, "Big brother, aren't you eating?" He sighed and said, "Big brother still can't accept Eddie. Is there something Eddie isn't doing well?" Sincere, Papa H slammed his chopsticks on the table and scolded, "No matter how dissatisfied you are with Eddie, he is still a son of the Sincere family, your brother. When you're asked to eat, you eat." Mama L shook her head in disappointment. "Sincere, you're being too willful." Melody furrowed her brows even more. "Eddie worked all day. Can't you at least take a symbolic bite?" "Is it that hard?" "Yes, it is hard. When I was 3, I was hospitalized for a seafood allergy. They don't remember." I said, "I'm not eating." Sincere, Papa H stood up abruptly, and before he could unleash his anger, I calmly stated, I'm allergic to seafood. I can't eat this." Papa H's expression froze as if recalling the dangerous episode from years ago. Ethan said, "I'm sorry, big brother, I didn't know." Tears streamed down his face as if he'd suffered a great injustice. He pleaded, "Big brother, don't be mad at Eddie." The guilt on Papa H's face vanished as he coldly reprimanded, "Eddie didn't do it on purpose. Why embarrass him by pointing it out?" A sense of helplessness swept over me as my weakened legs wobbled. I said, "Forget it, I'm tired," and forced myself to walk to my room. Pushing the door open, I found the guest room empty, transformed into a piano room. Mama L said, "Sincere, you've been in the hospital for years." It was empty anyway, and Eddie wanted to learn piano, so we used it for him. Mama L followed, looking a bit awkward as she asked, "You don't mind, right?" I softly asked, "Now that I'm awake, can it be returned?" Mama L, embarrassed and angry, retorted, "There are other rooms in the house. Look at Eddie. When has he ever competed with you?" I sighed. He doesn't need to compete to have everything. Mama L's face turned red with embarrassment. Melody, who had come after, spoke firmly, "Sincere, what are you fussing about again? Are you trying to make things difficult for us, or are you deliberately targeting Eddie?" I stared at Melody for a long time, unable to see the shadow of the little sister who used to follow me like a little tail. 3 years of sleep, and my place in my sister's heart was taken by Ethan. Why can't I repay what I owe Ethan? Seeing the sadness in my eyes, Melody softened her tone. "Brother, you're too biased against Eddie. He means no harm to you. I hope you two can get along. Also, your waking was so sudden. We'll prepare another room for you later. Stop causing trouble." I nodded and didn't argue. What's the point of fighting? They never intended for me to win. In the end, I moved into the small room at the end of the top floor corridor. My personal belongings from my original room were messily stacked in the corner. The crystal ball had been broken for who knows how long, its liquid dried up. The model castle was crushed underfoot. It was a gift from my sister who, at 3, had promised to build a big castle for us to live in together. I picked up the shattered crystal ball and turned on the switch. No music played. I should have realized long ago that this home hasn't been mine for years. In the corner lay many cherished items, symbols of the family and love I clung to. They've all moved on, but I'm still stuck in the past. It's time to let go. I found a sack, packed everything into it, and dragged it to the yard. I brought an iron barrel, placed some flammable items inside, and lit them. The smell of smoke brought Papa H running out, yelling, "It's just a room change and you set a fire? Are you trying to shame the Sincere family?" Mama L was in disbelief. "Sincere, how did you become like this?" I ignored them, mechanically feeding items into the barrel. Melody held my hand. "Sincere, must you cause such chaos?" At that moment, Victoria arrived with a car full of gifts for a visit. She saw the blazing barrel, and her gaze fell on the plush toy in my hand. Astonished, she said, "Sincere, I gave you that. You used to sleep with it. Are you going to burn it?" I stared at the dirty stuffed rabbit, unsure whether I was talking about it or her, and said, "It's dirty." The plush toy had been neglected for too long, its once snowy body now stained. The rabbit ears even bore the marks of rat bites. Victoria took the rabbit, frowning. "How did it end up like this?" I tossed previously cherished school uniforms, photos, and love letters into the barrel. The fierce flames devoured everything from the past. I echoed Victoria's question. "Yes, how did it end up like this?" Victoria didn't see. Photographs and letters, I only managed to catch a glimpse of the corner of a school uniform before pretending I was actually burning those old things. With disdain, she casually tossed the stuffed bunny into the fire as well. She said, "Burn it, and I'll get you a new one." Before the toy was fully consumed by the flames, Victoria eagerly dragged me to look at a list of dowries, luxury houses, cars, jewelry, antiques, paintings. Over the past 3 years, she had amassed an exorbitant dowry for herself. Victoria stuffed the list into my hands, her voice light and airy. "Sincere, all these dowries are yours to keep. Once we're married, everything from the Liu family will be yours. If it weren't for needing to pick an auspicious date, I'd marry you today." Her eyes sparkled like stars, and I seemed to see that girl from when she was 18, blushing and stammering as she confessed to me. If I hadn't heard her with Ethan, I might have believed she really loved me. Victoria, how could you cheat? We were so close to being perfect. Victoria's chest heaved, her eyes blazing sincere. Let's set our wedding date for the TH of this month. I nodded. All right. On the TH, our wedding day will be my death day. Let Victoria taste the journey from hope to despair. The Jenkins family listened to the whole thing. The sudden proposal from the Liu family caught them off guard and they couldn't publicly oppose it. After everyone left, Mama L's face turned cold. She said, "How could you agree to a wedding? What if the Shu family finds out? How will you marry Miss Tiff? And Eddie, have you thought about him? I know you once liked Victoria, but you have to accept the reality. She and Eddie are a pair. Do you really want Ethan to marry Victoria?" I was a bit intrigued. Would Ethan be satisfied if I died while Victoria still loved me? How would the Jenkins family explain to the Shu family? I said, "Don't worry, the engagement will be canceled." I smirked, thinking death would be a new beginning for me. Soon I could completely detach from them, no longer yearning for so-called love. Mama L said, "The Shu family is a great match. Many young men wish for such a chance but can't get it. You ungrateful boy, your parents are only doing this for your good." Mama L snatched the dowry list from my hands and shoved it into Ethan's arms. She said, "Eddie, these are your fiancé's dowries. Keep them safe." Ethan said, "But these are meant for Big Brother." Looking at the dazzling gifts on the table, he was already mad with jealousy. Glancing at the list filled with assets made his eyes red. He had been with Victoria for 3 years, so why couldn't he compare to Sincere? And the Shu family was a top-tier family. Why did Sincere, a sickly person, have a better engagement than him? Ethan suppressed his jealousy and fearfully declined. "Mama, Eddie doesn't dare to compete with Big Brother. These should go to him. It's Eddie's fault, and I just hope Big Brother won't hate me." Mama L said, "Silly child, you are the one who has been wronged." She gently touched her adopted son's head with endless emotion. "If only Sincere were half as sensible as you." That night I went downstairs to get water and encountered Ethan on a small balcony on the 2nd floor. I pretended not to see him, but Ethan approached me, his handsome face showing undisguised mockery. "Big Brother, what's wrong? Can't sleep because the dowry list ended up with me? Papa, Mama, little Mel, and Victoria. They should have been your closest loved ones. Look who's left who cares about you. Big Brother, you failed." I looked into his bloodshot eyes and said, "Aren't you also unable to sleep because Victoria wants to marry someone who isn't you?" The words struck a nerve, making Ethan's face contort with rage. I leaned weakly on the railing but spoke firmly. "Taking advantage of your comatose brother-in-law to climb into your future sister-in-law's bed is disgraceful. You should feel ashamed." Ethan gritted his teeth. "Don't be so smug. Even if you're the biological son of the Jenkins family, they all want you to break off the engagement with Victoria." Realizing something, Ethan smiled maliciously, slightly smug. "The night before you woke up, Victoria clung to me in the hospital bed 3 times. My body drives her crazy." Victoria's betrayal no longer stirred any anger or sadness in me. My eyes were as calm as a still pond. "Ethan, you're pathetic. You haven't managed to provoke me." Ethan, unable to maintain his composure, shouted, "Sincere, why do you still act so superior? Don't forget, you owe me a life. You shouldn't have woken up." The devilish malice nurtured in Ethan's heart for years burst forth, driving him to push me hard. He shouted, "Die! Real ouch!" Melody was the first to hear the commotion and rushed downstairs. Seeing the 2 people lying in a pool of blood, she instinctively ran towards Ethan. "Eddie! Eddie!" Ethan, who had lived a life of luxury, had long since fainted from the pain. After a quick glance at me, who was still conscious, Melody ordered the bodyguards to get Ethan into the car first. She said, "Sincere, Eddie has a head injury. It's urgent. I have to take him to the hospital." With that, she left without looking back. The system spoke, "Host, you have multiple fractures and internal injuries. Even if you don't change identities, you won't survive long. I managed a weak smile and murmured before slipping into unconsciousness, "No wonder it hurts so much." It was the butler who eventually got me to the hospital for emergency treatment. Barely a day after being discharged, I found myself back in the operating room. When I woke up, Victoria was sitting by my bedside, her eyes red as she held my hand. "Sincere, thank goodness you woke up. I was afraid you'd never wake again," she said, her voice tinged with tears. "Don't leave me, Sincere." The anesthesia had worn off, and any slight movement of my battered body brought excruciating pain. Still, I insisted on pulling my hand away. "Just hold on a bit longer, it's almost over." With a bang, Papa H kicked the door open, shouting, "Sincere, you pushed your brother down the stairs? How could I have a son with such a venomous heart?" Behind him, Mama L wiped her tears in distress. "Sincere, you've disappointed your mother so much," she choked out. I looked at my agitated parents with a terrifying calmness. "It was Ethan who pushed me down the stairs," I said. Papa H exploded in anger. "Still lying. Why would Eddie push you? It's you who's always been narrow-minded, targeting him since childhood." I knew it would come to this. I picked up the phone beside me and said, "Then call the police. They can reconstruct the truth from the scene." In a rage, Papa H smashed my phone to bits. "Sibling rivalry, and you want to make the Sincere family a laughingstock for the world?" he fumed. I stared straight at this so-called father of mine and said, "I just want my name cleared." We locked eyes, his face dark with confusion. Victoria, her face stern, interjected, "Uncle, let's at least hear what Sincere has to say." Just as Papa H was about to ask about the events of that night, the hospital room door was forcefully pushed open again. Melody entered with 2 doctors in tow and without a word, grabbed my hand. "Quick, draw the blood," she urged. I asked, "You want me to give blood to Ethan?" Looking up at my sister's unfamiliar face, I said, "Melody, aren't you going to ask about my condition?" Melody's eyes were full of impatience and exhaustion. "Sincere, I can overlook you pushing Eddie down the stairs, but without your blood, Eddie will die. Save him first." Victoria, hearing the severity of her old flame's condition, felt a pang of reluctance. A sentence about Sincere needing to rest was swallowed back. She looked at me, her expression anxious. "Sincere, he's your brother," she said. I asked Victoria, "Do you also want me to give blood to Ethan?" It was the first time Victoria saw such an expression in my eyes, one filled with endless despair and desolation. An inexplicable unease crept into her heart. Quickly she recalled memories of the past 3 years with Ethan, her eyes darkening with desire. To her, I was an untouchable deity, while Ethan was a bed partner who fulfilled all her whims. A bed partner couldn't compare to a deity, but she didn't want to lose either. At this moment, it wasn't a choice between the two, it was just giving some blood. It would be fine, so she said, "No matter what, you 2 are brothers." She avoided my gaze instinctively. "The doctors are here, nothing will happen to you. I'll make sure you get the nutrients back. I'll have the butler prepare some restorative soup for you." With that, Victoria picked up her phone and left the room. I should have been angry, but my body wouldn't allow it. It was as if I had been drained, lying there staring blankly at her retreating figure. I remembered when I was 6, Ethan killed my cat. I complained to my parents, only to be scolded. Unwilling to accept it, I cried and made a fuss. Instead of the warm embrace and comfort from my mother, I was met with a harsh slap. I ran away from home with my backpack. It was Victoria who found me. She held my hand and led me back, promising she'd grow up quickly and give me a warm home with lots of cats. She broke that promise. After Victoria left, Mama L, feeling free, said, "Aren't you fine now? What's wrong with giving some blood to Eddie? He hurt his head, and his health was never good. I think you're just stalling to kill him." Melody frowned and said, "We only need a little blood." Without waiting for my reaction, she instructed the doctor firmly, "Quick, draw it." The doctor wiped his sweat and said, "This, extracting blood from an injured person might not be suitable. The hospital has already sourced blood from the city hospital. We just need to wait another half an hour, my sister said. No, what if something happens to Eddie? Mama L was worried sick. Seeing that reasoning was pointless, she quickly stepped forward, roughly grabbed my hand, and inserted the needle into my vein. The cold sensation made my soul tremble, as life seemed to drain away with the blood. Waves of dizziness took me back to my happiest childhood moments, feeling familiar warmth and wanting to see my mother's face again. Though my blurry vision made it impossible, instinctively I called out, "Mom, Mom, it hurts." That kitten-like call made her heart inexplicably tight, but she soon remembered the foster son in another room whose life was uncertain. She said, "Sincere, stop being stubborn." Mama L turned away, not looking at me, and blamed, "If it weren't for you, Eddie wouldn't have been in this predicament. You better learn your lesson." The doctor quickly reminded, "We've drawn 200 milliliters already." Papa H urged, "Keep going." Mama L hesitated, then nodded in agreement. "Draw more just in case." Melody was preoccupied with the image of Ethan being thrown out with a bloody head, unable to mind me, frequently glancing outside the ward, murmuring, "Eddie, please be okay." The system spoke. "Warning, the host's body is currently insufficient to sustain until the new identity expires." The system emitted a harsh alarm, seemingly a flashback, as I heard their words clearly. In the corner of my eye, I saw the woman I considered my salvation hang up the phone and return to the ward. I slowly closed my eyes. I said, "System, take whatever points you need and take me away." The system was silent for a while. It originally didn't have a sole custody service, but in the end, it made an exception for me. A mechanical voice sounded, "The soul is about to detach." Seeing me fall into a slumber, the terrified doctor quickly stopped. Milliliters, no more. Even a healthy person can't handle this much all at once. Papa H said, "Lives are at stake here. What's the delay? Didn't we draw 600 milliliters before and it was fine?" He wanted to continue reprimanding, but Mama L held him back. She glanced at their son on the hospital bed, with his eyes tightly closed, her heart skipping a beat for no reason. She said, "Enough. Let's take this blood to save Eddie." Following his wife's gaze, Papa H noticed my bloodless face, snorted coldly. "Ungrateful child, brought this upon yourself." At this moment, Melody stood up. She said, "We've delayed too long already. Let's go first. If the blood isn't enough, we'll come back for more." The doctor was just about to check on my condition when Melody dragged him away. Victoria brushed past them. She remembered my dim eyes, an indescribable sense of panic growing stronger. She intended to comfort me, but Papa H, who was keen on matching Victoria with Ethan, called her over. He said, "Victoria, come with us." Victoria looked towards the bed. My head quietly turned to the other side, the sunlight filtering through my pale, dry hair, revealing skin so translucent it seemed I would vanish in the next instant. Her heart tightened as she stepped forward. Just as she was about to leave the room, Mama L looked back and, seeing Victoria had not followed, advised, "Let Sincere rest." Thinking of her lover, whose fate was uncertain, and Ethan's 3 years of selfless, unrecognized companionship, Victoria felt a pang of guilt and turned away. Out of an inexplicable sense of guilt, she couldn't even face me directly. She said, "Sincere, I'll go check on your brother." In an instant, the ward fell silent. I said, "They didn't even realize I'm dead." My soul drifted above, forlornly watching the lonely corpse. The system said, "Host, the fact that they don't love you doesn't really hurt you. What's truly injuring you is your unrealistic expectations and fantasies." The system transported my soul to the surgery room's entrance. The faces of the family and Victoria were filled with genuine concern and worry. No one thought of me, heavily injured and drained of hundreds of milliliters of blood. The system stated, "Host, give up." I looked away, staring directly at the door, seeing Ethan inside, who should have been on the brink of death, looking rosy and complacent. I chuckled wryly. If the family and Victoria had put in a bit of effort, they would have seen through Ethan's clumsy lie. Unfortunately, concern clouds judgment. Goodbye, parents, sister, goodbye, Victoria. I looked one last time at the parents, sister, and lover who were once mine. In the future, I will cherish myself, love myself 1,000 times over. Farewell forever. Unexpectedly, the system was quite upset by the scene in the surgery room. It said, "On the day the host awakens, Melody installed surveillance on every floor, hallway, and stairway of the household. The system can hack into major social platforms to expose the footage. Melody probably installed the surveillance to prevent me from bullying Ethan, but it inadvertently recorded Ethan's crimes. I found it absurd. Sleepiness overtook me. There was still some time before I could reincarnate, but the remaining points were insufficient to keep my soul conscious. Gradually, I fell into a slumber. Before I fell asleep, I looked at the system that had accompanied me for 3,000 lifetimes. I said, "Thank you, system." In the end, the system sought justice for me. I wasn't too miserable, was I? Sincere completely fell into slumber at that moment, as Victoria. As if sensing something, as if something important was being forcibly ripped away from life, Victoria looked around in panic and shouted, "Don't go." Melody comforted her with a complex expression, "Eddie will be fine." Victoria opened her mouth, unable to articulate why she felt so uneasy. Soon Victoria and the Sincere family's phones started ringing crazily one after another, informing them that the Sincere family surveillance video had been leaked and was trending. In a daze, Victoria opened the video sent by Sophia. Ethan's voice came through clearly. He said, "Big brother, why did the dowry list end up with me? I couldn't sleep." Victoria murmured, "Dowry." Her tone turned cold. The Sincere family didn't have time to pay attention to her as they were stunned by the image of Ethan on the screen. In the dim footage, his eyes, like they were poisoned, were particularly shocking. Eleanor stepped back half a step and said, This is Eddie." The video continued to play. Ethan said, "The night before you woke up, Victoria begged me at the bedside 3 times. My body made her crazy with love." Victoria shouted, "Ethan!" She could no longer care about how her dowry got into Ethan's hands, as unprecedented terror almost consumed her. Ethan, how dare he? Melody had long known about Ethan and Victoria's affair. Hearing him say such things hurt her deeply, but Victoria's reaction pained her even more. Melody said, "Sister Victoria, Eddie likes you so much. If it weren't for you." At this moment, Ethan viciously pushed Sincere on the screen, cursing, "Go to hell." Melody's eyes widened as she watched Sincere pull Ethan down the stairs with him as he fell. Her face turned pale, and she collapsed onto a bench in the hospital corridor. How could Eddie be so cruel to his brother? She had installed the surveillance cameras herself, yet had never reviewed the footage, simply assuming her brother had pushed Ethan. Melody clutched her hair in agony, muttering to herself, "Why is this happening? Eddie has always been kind and gentle." Harrison looked at the unbearable comments online, his face growing darker until he was enraged, saying, "Sincere must have deliberately leaked the video. He's disgraced the Sincere family, that ungrateful son." He stormed off toward the hospital room. Just as he reached the door, a doctor ran out looking like he'd seen a ghost, exclaiming urgently, "Mr. Sincere, Lady V, something terrible has happened. Mr. Sincere has passed away." "What did you say?" Victoria's eyes filled with terrifying bloodlust as she grabbed the doctor's collar and asked, "Who passed away?" "He just woke up." The doctor, on the verge of tears, replied, "Mr. Sincere has indeed passed." Mama L, who had followed them, nearly collapsed upon hearing these words. Harrison stopped rushing into the room, quickly supporting his wife. Eleanor clutched his hand tightly, her lips bloodless. She murmured, "Gone." Harrison's face turned ashen as he said, "After 20 years of blood transfusions, how could he die so easily?" He turned and angrily shouted at the doctor, who was nearly strangled by Victoria. "How much did Sincere pay you to lie to us like this, to cover his scandal? Unfilial son." The doctor, just thrown to the ground by Victoria, trembled and hesitated to speak. This was a private hospital under the Sincere family, and some matters were not his to delve into. He said, "Mr. Sincere was already losing too much blood. How could he withstand?" The doctor's genuine expression left Victoria feeling as if she had fallen into an ice cave, too afraid to confirm by entering the room, resorting to futile anger. She raised her hand and slapped the doctor repeatedly, shouting, "How dare you curse him? He won't die." The scene was chaotic. Harrison held his limp wife tightly and rushed into the room, tearing off the white sheet. He shouted angrily, "Sincere, have you had enough? Get up." His anger froze on his face, replaced by shock and helplessness. In his arms, Eleanor was overwhelmed by a tsunami of fear and regret, unable to breathe despite her mouth wide open. All the long-held anxiety materialized. Echoing in her mind was her son's faint calls of "Mom." The word pain turned into a sharp blade cutting open her heart. How much must it have hurt for him? Finally, Eleanor let out a mournful cry, "Sincere!" Outside the room, Victoria heard the heart-wrenching scream, her face turning as pale as paper, the hand she had raised unable to come down. She didn't know how she managed to walk into the room. As she entered, Harrison was trying to help his limp wife stand, but her legs were too weak to support her. In the end, she lay over the cold body, her tears the size of beans falling and hitting the corner of the mouth of the corpse. She trembled as she touched her son's stiff face, unable to believe that the call of "Mom" was his final words. In a voice hoarse and terrifying, she said, "Mom just wanted you to save Eddie. Why did you leave Sincere? Wake up." She pressed her cheek against her son's forehead, trying to give him some warmth, but the cold touch made her tremble uncontrollably. With tear-filled eyes, she said, "Mom won't call you naughty anymore. Don't scare Mom." "Mama, are you okay, Sincere?" She once vowed to give her son the best the world had to offer. Yet somewhere along the way, she started to feel that her son was not sensible, unlike her more considerate adopted child. She became stingy with her affection, offering nothing but endless criticism to her son during his final conscious days. Now, her child was gone. Those unbearable memories turned into sharp fragments, cutting through every nerve of her body with each breath. Fueled by overwhelming guilt, she remembered when her son was born, how small and soft he was, peacefully resting in her arms, filling her heart with joy and gratitude. She had promised to protect him, yet he left before her. It was her own hands that pushed the fatal needle into his vein. She choked, "What did I do to you, Sincere?" Victoria stared blankly at the body on the bed. As her heart-wrenching sobs filled the room, she collapsed to her knees, feeling as if an invisible hand was tearing at her heart, wishing she could die right there. She crawled toward the hospital bed, though it seemed impossible to bridge the mere few feet between them. She reached out, touching only the icy cold fingertips, a temperature no living person should have. Grief consumed her. She cried, "You're joking with me, right, Sincere? How could you leave me? Without you, I'll die, Sincere." We were about to get married. At the hospital room's entrance, Melody finally gathered the courage to apologize to her brother on Ethan's behalf and to question why he leaked the video. She had planned to convince him to admit at a press conference that the video was a prank between brothers, to save Ethan's face. However, the scene before her was unexpected, causing her head to spin. Her brother was dead. Stunned, Melody walked to the bedside, but before she could take one last look at her brother, Victoria noticed her, sprang up like a wild beast and grabbed her. "You killed." He was convinced that Sincere's family would make Sincere donate blood. Even if it wouldn't take Sincere's life, it would certainly make him disappointed in her and his family. Victoria shouted, "It's you! You killed Sincere!" Ethan trembled and said, "What? How could Big Brother?" The muscles at the corners of Ethan's mouth twitched, almost making him burst into laughter from the sheer joy. He quickly lowered his head, feigning surprise and sadness. "Oh, even though Big Brother pushed me down the stairs, I never blamed him. I never thought he would harm himself instead, passing so suddenly. Now that Big Brother is gone, let's forget the past. I'll take care of Papa H, Mama L, Little Mel, and Victoria in his stead. I'm sure Big Brother, looking up from the depths, would want us to be well." Contrary to Ethan's expectations, Victoria stepped forward and slapped him off the bed. She scolded, Replace him? Are you even worthy? Ethan fell to the ground, shocked, holding his reddened cheek, and looked up at the woman who had once been intimately involved with him day and night. Ethan said, "Can't you let go of Big Brother? He's already dead." He pounded his chest, crying out, "Why can't I ever measure up to Big Brother? Even though he's dead, you still don't see me. I'm the one who truly loves you." Victoria laughed cruelly and said, "Love? You, a mere bed warmer, dare to speak of love?" Ethan smiled bitterly and asked, "In your eyes, am I just a bed warmer, Victoria? Yes, I am shameless, but it's because I love you that I disregarded everything. And your saintly Sincere, as soon as he woke up, couldn't wait to push me down the stairs to get rid of me. You still only have him in your heart." Victoria couldn't believe he could lie so brazenly. She played the video and threw it at him. She gritted her teeth and said, "For all these years you've been distorting the truth and defaming Sincere like this, haven't you? Look for yourself, it's clearly you who pushed Sincere down the stairs." Ethan's grievances were shattered by the scenes in the video, leaving only shock and confusion. What was going on? When did they install surveillance at the stairway? Instinctively, he looked at Eleanor, who had always cherished him. Eleanor, in a frenzy, was clutching an empty blood bag, crying, "It's gone, Sincere. They're all murderers. Mama wants them to pay." Saying this, she turned to Ethan, moving to draw his blood. "Give it back! Give it back!" Ethan dodged, his heart sinking to the depths. "I can die, but not because of him." Victoria said, "Call the police." Victoria, fed up with the farce, was about to dial the number to send Ethan to jail. Harrison hurriedly stopped her, saying, "No, we can't clear ourselves from the blood donation incident. We'd all end up in there." Victoria retorted, "I don't care." She snatched her phone back. Harrison, taking a gamble, said, "I just agreed to let Sincere marry Miss Tiff. Ethan killed Sincere, he should go to the Tiff family to atone. You know, even your Victoria family can't compete with the Tiff family." Victoria's blood ran cold instantly. "Sincere is my fiancé. Did you ask for my opinion on him marrying someone else? And you want him to marry Tiffany? She's a lunatic." Victoria, as the head of the Victoria family, knew the secrets the Tiff family tried hard to hide. Tiffany crippled 2 previous fiancés. "You want Sincere to marry her?" Harrison turned red with anger. "Even if Tiffany is a lunatic, at least she won't make Sincere a cuckold." Victoria's face darkened, but she had indeed betrayed Sincere, leaving her unable to refute. Eleanor said, "You told me Tiffany is the only daughter of the Tiff family. Marrying her would make Sincere the head of the Tiff family." Having overheard their conversation, Eleanor was trembling, tears streaming down uncontrollably as she looked at her husband with sorrow. "How could you deceive me?" Harrison quickly explained, "I didn't deceive you. Mr. Tiff promised that Sincere wouldn't have to interact with Miss Tiff. The Tiff family only wanted a respectable father for their heir. As long as Tiffany had a child through IVF, the entire Tiff company would belong to Sincere." Eleanor shouted, "You just want our son to be a tool. You're ruining his life." Her son's corpse flashed before her eyes again, and she couldn't help but weep. "My child no longer has a future. You can't sell him anymore." Harrison's face was grim. He glared at Ethan. "You killed Sincere. Go to the Tiff family to atone." Melody, sweating with anxiety, interrupted. "Dad, you've already wronged Sincere. Do you want to hurt Eddie too? How can Eddie marry a lunatic?" Ethan crawled to Harrison, pitifully clutching his pant leg, crying, "Dad, I'm the son you've cherished for over 20 years. I don't want to marry Miss Tiff. Please, I beg you." Harrison mercilessly pulled his leg away, his expression dark. "Marry her? Are you worthy? You're nothing but a toy for Miss Tiff." Ethan's face turned ashen. He couldn't imagine being tortured and humiliated by a person with mental issues. He had lived as a privileged child of a wealthy family for over 20 years. How could he become a plaything for a lunatic's wrath? So he pleaded, "Victoria, for the sake of our 3 years together, help me, please. Tiffany will beat me to death." Victoria remained unmoved. The sinister eyes glinted with a sharp, cold light as she spoke. You want to replace Sincere so badly? Then bear it all for him. The Victoria family aimed to bribe the Tiff family, whispering spiteful words into Tiffany's ears, tormenting Ethan to the brink of despair. "Ethan, I won't let you off easy," she said. An indescribable fear spread from Ethan's heart, chilling him to the bone. He murmured, "How could this happen? It shouldn't be like this. Sincere is dead. I'm the only heir of the Sincere family. I should be the future head of both the Victoria and Sincere families. I can't be with a mad woman. I refuse." Victoria ignored Ethan's resistance. Whether or not to go to the Tiff family was not up to him. Temporarily resolving the issue with Ethan, the root of all problems, pain and regret lingered, consuming Victoria's soul repeatedly. She returned to the hospital, forcibly taking the body back to the Victoria family estate. Eleanor, unable to bear the shock of not seeing her son, stormed in to reclaim him. Victoria declared Sincere as her husband, locking herself in a room, sharing a bed with the corpse. In the end, Sophia flew in from abroad to break down the door, ordering Victoria to be knocked out and the decomposing body to be sent to the crematorium. When Victoria awoke, she demanded the ashes. As the Sincere and Victoria families clashed, rumors ran rampant outside. Victoria's infidelity with her fiancé's adopted brother and the collapse of her loving image drew public ire, especially since Sincere had cared for her for 3 years, possibly to the point of exhaustion. Leading to his vegetative state, Victoria's betrayal ignited collective fury, drawing widespread condemnation. She cared little about her reputation, fighting for Sincere's ashes. Finally, a compromise was reached, and Sincere's ashes were interred in a public cemetery. The families quarreled over whether the tombstone should read "beloved husband" or "beloved son." After the body was dealt with, Victoria stormed into the Sincere household to collect Sincere's belongings. However, much had been burned. She found no trace of their past together among his possessions. Sincere had long known about her infidelity. In the courtyard center, remnants of ashes remained. His utterance of a slur echoed in her mind, eventually piercing her heart like countless arrows. Victoria curled up on the ground in pain, murmuring, "Sincere." Eleanor approached, saying, "Victoria, look at this." She had been a socialite for most of her life, her hair meticulously maintained, but in just a few days it was streaked with glaring white. Her eyes hollow, her face etched with deep lines. She exuded fatigue. A disheveled Victoria looked up, her gaze falling on Eleanor's hand. She sensed something, her heart racing, and with trembling hands took the letter. It was indeed from Sincere. She opened it, revealing only a few lines. "Papa H. Melody, when I'm gone, let Ethan be without debt. Victoria, we are over. What isn't mine I won't have." The letter, despite its lightness, weighed on her heart like a 1,000-pound stone, crushing her. Victoria knelt, collapsing to the floor, wailing, "Sincere," but he would never answer her again. She had to painfully realize that from the moment she chose betrayal, she was destined to lose him. He had long since let her go. Covering her face, Victoria let out a beast-like cry, "Sincere." Eleanor silently bent down, collected the letter, and returned inside. In the sunset, her once straight back was hunched, her thin silhouette lonely and desolate. She said, "We all wronged Sincere. Victoria, spend your life making amends." Victoria couldn't help but weep bitterly. They were Sincere's dearest ones. If any of them had cared for him, he wouldn't have died. The overwhelming guilt left Victoria in utter despair. What had she done? Victoria didn't know how she returned home, only that whenever clarity hit, the pain inflicted on Sincere was like a sharp saw, tearing at her heart, bleeding without pause. She shut herself away, numbing her nerves with alcohol until one day, she began to be tormented by bizarre nightmares. The dreams spanned not only the modern era but also ancient times, fantasy worlds, martial arts realms, chaotic eras, apocalyptic settings, and even the S to the S. In every dream, she was invariably a scapegoat, repeatedly used, betrayed, and trampled, as if this were an inescapable fate. Yet reality was more terrifying than the dreams. Victoria couldn't face the pain of having killed her beloved, preferring to sink into the dreams, being tormented over and over. Physical pain was better than the psychological torment. After dying innumerable times, Victoria returned to the beginning of the dream, once more becoming the scapegoat. In the dream, she desperately fought against fate, enduring even heavier humiliation and trials. Victoria seemed like an outsider, yet she truly felt the dream person's agony. In the end, the dream version of her rewrote her fate, feeling more heartache than joy. As a child, Victoria witnessed her father's death, and she and her mother suffered under the oppression of uncles. She endured, biding her time until she reclaimed the position as head of the Victoria family. Her heart, though her resolve was undeniable, she still preferred to be the stepping stone for the protagonist in countless dreams, resigning to fate. Why endure such hardship? Victoria watched herself being knocked down time and again, and just when she thought she would finally give up, she stood up once more. Her heart transformed from numbness to tenderness, leading her to the last dream. Two souls were forcefully pulled from their original bodies. She saw Sincere and shouted, "Sincere, you've finally come to see me." Victoria rushed toward him, but his spirit transformed into stardust just as she approached. When she fell, it reassembled, yet she couldn't touch or grasp it. Victoria looked at his elusive form, tears streaming down her face, and choked out, "Sincere, don't leave me." Sincere's eyes shone as he exclaimed joyfully, "I have completed all the tasks. I changed the fate of 3,000 insignificant lives and altered your destiny of an early death. I can come back for you, Victoria. We will be happy, won't we?" A thunderous realization exploded in Victoria's mind. She understood everything. In the dreams, she was Sincere. Sincere had traversed countless worlds for her. She couldn't even bear one world, yet he endured it all. How passionately and purely he loved her. Yet she had failed him, losing the one person who loved her most in the world. Victoria tried time and again to hold on to him, all in vain. She shouted, "No, Sincere, don't go, come back, Sincere." She saw Sincere lower his eyes in sorrow, his spirit becoming gradually transparent. He said, "Victoria, we are ultimately fated to be apart. Goodbye, Victoria." Victoria watched in agony as he transformed from joy to sorrow and finally left her forever. "No, Sincere, Sincere!" she screamed as she awoke from her dream, devastated to find herself back in reality. "Sincere, I need to find Sincere." Sophia rushed into the room, seeing the floor littered with empty bottles, and slapped her daughter twice in anger. Victoria refused to quiet down, struggling to stand and gripping her mother's shoulders with bloodshot eyes. "Mom, Sincere saved me. He kept me alive. He has a system. He won't die. I need to find him." Sophia pushed Victoria aside and slapped the documents in her hand onto her daughter's face. "Look who caused you to be in a coma for 3 years, she said. Ignoring the pain on her face, Victoria knelt to grab the documents. For 3 years, she had never stopped searching for the truth about the accident. If it hadn't been for that incident, she and Sincere would have been married by now. Seeing who the evidence pointed to, Victoria's eyes widened with rage. It was him. "Mom, you found clues 3 years ago." Victoria wasn't surprised by who orchestrated the accident. What puzzled her was her mother's deliberate concealment. Sophia said, "When you had the accident, you were at death's door. Many were eyeing the Liu family, trying to take advantage. I had to hold up the company and didn't have the energy for a thorough investigation. Later, when you woke up, the Liu family investigated thoroughly and found Ethan involved. Conveniently, he became your lover." She continued, "Ethan's original target was Sincere. You were hit by mistake, implicated by Sincere. But Sincere was devoted to you, eventually exhausting himself to a vegetative state to care for you. I can't persuade you to abandon him, but you can't wait for him forever. What if he never wakes up? What about the Liu family's legacy without children?" Victoria clenched her fists. "So you thought I should have a child with Ethan first, right? If it weren't for Ethan's interference, Sincere and I would have had a child by now. and Sincere wouldn't have left me. Sophia's face darkened. Anyway, you can't be with either of them. Instead of drowning in grief, why not settle the score with Ethan? To my knowledge, he hasn't been sent to the Shu family. Victoria replied indignantly. The Sincere family dares to. Anger and resentment surged within her. Ethan had caused Sincere's death. Yet the Sincere family forced their son to marry Tiffany while sparing Ethan, their adopted son. Victoria drove to the Sincere family to demand answers, only to find out that Melody was pregnant. Pregnant? Victoria scoffed. You called me shameless, yet your precious daughter ended up in bed with a man, even having a child. I don't care how many children Melody has, Ethan must go to the Shu family. You think you can hide him and let this slide? Ignoring her discomfort, Victoria reached to grab Ethan. Come with me to the Shu family, she demanded. But Melody pulled Ethan aside, shielding him protectively. Victoria's face darkened. Melody, move aside. Ethan must go to the Shu family to atone. She was unrelenting, ready to drag Ethan away. Melody, trying to protect both her stomach and Ethan, pleaded, Victoria, what are you doing? If you take Eddie away, what about my child? The room fell silent and Harrison's face flushed with embarrassment and anger. He gritted his teeth, saying, This ungrateful girl is pregnant with Ethan's child. The Shu family is furious, thinking we deliberately insulted Miss Tiff. The Sincere family suffered greatly, and Victoria was incredulous. Her gaze, sharp as a sword, pierced straight at Melody's abdomen. She shouted in fury, He killed your brother, and you still slept with him, Melody. Have you lost your mind? Melody retorted angrily. What do you want me to do? I'm carrying Eddie's child. I have no brother anymore, and you still want my child to be fatherless. Victoria replied, You don't deserve to call Sincere your brother. Harrison interjected, Incest between siblings, these two beasts have shamed the Sincere family. The more I think about it, the angrier I get, he muttered bitterly. Victoria's knuckles turned white from clenching too hard. Unable to bear it any longer, she raised her hand to strike Melody. Harrison stepped in, saying, What good will hitting them do? Sincere is already dead. The Sincere family has been devastated by the Tiff family schemes and can't afford any more trouble. Besides, Melody is determined to be with Ethan. The child she's carrying is the only heir to the Sincere family. If anything happens to Ethan, what will happen to them, mother and child? Let's just leave it at that for now. Victoria questioned, Leave it at that? Her heart chilled by the Sincere family's lack of warmth, she said, Sincere was killed by Ethan, and as his father, you agree to let Melody give birth to the murderer's child. You don't deserve to be Sincere's family. Neighbors, alerted by the noise, gathered outside the mansion, whispering and pointing. Always conscious of his reputation, Harrison's face flushed with embarrassment, unable to lift his head. He said, Let's discuss this inside. Victoria shook off his hand, her gaze chilling as she looked at them, squeezing words through clenched teeth. From now on, there will be no peace between the Victoria and Sincere families. Initially, the Sincere family was slightly weaker than the Victoria family, which is why they tolerated her entanglement with both brothers, even going so far as to let Ethan marry her. Later, the Tiff family, after being mocked twice over Miss Tiff's affair, harshly retaliated against the Sincere family. Despite this, the Sincere family now rivaled the Victoria family in strength. Victoria's image of devotion collapsed. She drank excessively and neglected her duties. Ambitious uncles made a comeback, causing internal and external troubles for the Victoria group. Amidst this, Victoria declared war on her longtime ally, the Sincere family. With deep intertwined interests, both groups suffered greatly. Yet Victoria, like a mad dog, relentlessly pursued the Sincere family. Melody, to protect her husband, showed no mercy. As the Victoria and Sincere families were mutually devastated, I had successfully possessed the body of Zachary, the eldest son of the Zach group, for 3 months. In front of a canvas, a tabby cat lazily curled at my feet as I focused intently on painting, tireless. The system commented, Hosts, Zachary, is as naive as a child but has a talent for art. The Zach family specifically hired several internationally renowned masters to teach him drawing, traditional painting, oil painting, watercolor. The young master's years of painting skills are ingrained in muscle memory. Why do you work so hard? Without pausing my brush, I replied, System, these skills aren't truly mine. Only through continuous practice can I fully integrate and utilize them. Besides, I want to paint the stories from the 3,000 small worlds I've lived in. Those 3,000 innocent souls trampled to death, who wished to change the past. They were all pure and good. I said they deserve to be seen. Zach, deep into the night, Mama L entered with a cup of warm milk, her gentle, loving gaze never leaving me. She softly said, Zach, it's time to rest. Thank you, Mom, I replied, taking the milk and sipping it slowly. When I first awakened, I was uncomfortable and didn't dare to call Mama L Mom. It was her meticulous love that broke down my defenses. I was very fortunate to be reborn into the Zach family. Initially, I asked about the whereabouts of the original owner. The system explained the Zach couple's lifetime of good deeds shielded Zachary, allowing him to reincarnate into another happy, prosperous family. Host, you need not worry. The system has arranged everything with destiny. The Zach family will not notice anything unusual. From now on, you are Zachary. Mama L gazed at me, affectionately stroking my soft hair. Zach, you used to be like a child. I always worried about what would happen after your father and I pass. I feared your sister wouldn't be able to protect you. Even if she could, once she has her own family, how much energy could she spare for you? Her voice choked up, her beautiful eyes shimmering with tears. Zach, you've finally grown up. Even if I'm not around, I won't have to worry about you being bullied. Feeling her overwhelming love, my heart ached. For the first time, I mustered the courage to embrace her, calling out, Mom. She paused, then laughed and cried, hugging me tightly. Zach, my child, I've waited so long for this day. Outside the door, my father and sister arrived, hearing the commotion. Papa H, with reddened eyes, embraced his wife. All right, it's good that Zach is back to normal. No need for tears. Yet she cried even more fiercely. I just feel for Zach. Our Zach has been mocked as a fool by so many behind his back. Just like the Tiff family's heiress. Despite the Tiff family's ruthless ways, people still gossip about Tiffany being crazy. Gently wiping the tears from his wife's face, he comforted her. It's okay. Our Zach is doing so much better now. If anyone dares to call him a fool again, they'll have to answer to me. Little Mel walked in, saying, Since Big Brother is better, let's take him out for a walk. Let everyone see that my brother isn't a fool. Mama L lightly tapped Little Mel on the shoulder, scolding gently, What do you mean by walk? Your brother is not a donkey or a horse. Little Mel quickly pleaded playfully, Mom, I'm sorry. I meant let's take Big Brother out to amaze everyone. Holding her mother's hand with pride, she exclaimed, Mom, you wouldn't believe it. After the board saw Big Brother's artwork, they were astounded and urged me to quickly secure the rights. They've unanimously decided to print and distribute the comics, predicting they will be a huge hit. If they knew Zach was the creator, they'd be blown away. Hearing this, Mama L wiped the tears from her eyes and said, My Zach has finally overcome his hardships. The scene stirred my soul deeply. I had stopped hoping for familial love, but being cared for felt so good. I resolved to protect the Chen family. No one would harm my family, not even a bit. Mama L mentioned, There are quite a few auctions and concerts lately, but they're all too small scale. She worried about my first public appearance after recovery, saying, We haven't even had the chance to get Zach a fitting suit. Papa H remembered something and suggested, Next month is Mr. Vivian's birthday. All the elites from around Richmond will be there. Why don't we take Zach? Mama L clapped her hands and agreed. Yes, then everyone will know Zach has recovered. Speaking of which, it's quite a coincidence. Vivian, the head of the family, also suddenly woke up 3 months ago, just a few days apart from Zach. Hearing this familiar name, I couldn't help but be taken aback. In the first world, she was the awakened antagonist NPC. And in every subsequent world, she appeared in different roles around me. Each of her names contained the character Fifth. Was it a coincidence? When Victoria rushed into the study, her mother Sophia, nearly 60, was painstakingly tidying up the mess Victoria left behind, trying desperately to save the precarious Liu Corporation. Seeing her disappointing daughter, Sophia was furious and said, "I told you the truth about the car accident to give you something to do, not to make an enemy of the Sincere family. Are you trying to drag the entire Liu Corporation down with you?" Victoria ignored her, urgently handing her a book, urging, "Mom, quickly tell me, who is the author of this comic and where are they?" The Liu Corporation owned a sizable comic platform, one of its main industries, surviving the business wars with the Sincere family thanks to a strong fan base. Now, it was facing the impact of the Chen Group, whose focus wasn't originally on comics. Sophia, exasperated, said, "This comic series is a major project recently promoted by the Chen Group. I specially bought it to see. The story is exquisite, the art is exceptional. Liu's contracted authors couldn't imitate it if they tried. The author is a rising star in the art world. Pen name, Winds from the Clouds." Victoria's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Winds from the Clouds, it's him. He's back." Sophia was surprised. "How do you know him?" "Everyone outside says Winds from the Clouds is the eldest son of the Chen Group, Zachary. If the Liu Corporation could secure even one of his works, it might solve the current crisis. But alas, why would Zach sign with us?" Thinking of this, Sophia glared at Victoria with disappointment, saying, "Zach was foolish for over 20 years and became a genius artist just after recovering his senses. You're 28 and only caused trouble." Sophia was deeply resentful. If Victoria hadn't cheated, Ethan would have been sent to prison 3 years ago, and she could have ended up with Sincere. In the end, it's you who messed everything up. But Victoria, immersed in the joy of finding her love, held the comic book, uncertain whether she was crying or laughing. Sophia was even angrier. Even in becoming a sleeping prince, Mr. Vivian woke up less than 4 months ago and managed the Vivian family in perfect order. "What have you been doing for 3 years?" Victoria said, "Vivian, it's her." She really followed. Victoria seemed to be stimulated, shouting in panic, "We can't let that person meet Sincere. Where's Zachary? I need to see him." Sophia frowned deeply. "Sincere is already dead," Victoria said. "Zachary is Sincere." Victoria clutched the book, which depicted all the 3,000 tasks he experienced in dreams, or that Sincere truly completed. Only he could draw it. "I need to see him. I must ask for his forgiveness." Sophia broke into a cold sweat, saying, "You've grieved yourself into madness. How could the eldest son of the Chen family and Sincere be the same person?" Victoria shook her head. "It's him." Her face was full of excitement and fanaticism as she tried to rush out. Sophia was utterly exhausted and ordered people to forcibly lock Victoria up. Victoria shouted, "Let me out, I want to see Sincere." Victoria, like a raging beast, kicked the door violently. "Mom, I want Sincere." Sophia supported herself against the wall. With a throbbing headache, Victoria's mother spoke. "When your father died suddenly, I couldn't take care of you. It was Sincere who stayed by your side and helped you through the darkness. I know how important he is to you, but Sincere is gone. I saw him cremated with my own eyes. Please stop this, Victoria." "Mom, Sincere is not dead. Let me out," Victoria pleaded, kneeling on the floor of the room. "Sincere is still waiting for me, Mom. He loved me so much he wouldn't leave me." How could Sophia believe such absurd words? She was even more convinced that her daughter was having a mental breakdown. Suppressing her own grief, she said, "Victoria, you need to calm down. I'm doing this for your own good. If you upset Mr. Chen, the family might not be able to protect you." My sister said, "Brother, don't worry, I'm here." In the car on the way to the Yu family estate, my sister noticed my silence and playfully waved her hand, saying, "Who dares to upset my brother? I'll deal with them." I chuckled and said, "I'm not afraid. I was just thinking about the Yu family head, who also became a sleeping prince 3 years ago." My sister scratched her head and asked, "Why did you say also? Who else?" I skipped a beat, realizing my slip. She continued, I get it now. You're talking about young Master G, right? The whole affair between the G and Lu families has been all over the place recently. Mama L, overhearing, added, I heard that the day he was discharged from the hospital, he was pushed down the stairs by his foster brother and forced by his family and fiancée to donate blood. He didn't survive. After the incident became public, the G family protected the foster son. Mama L shook her head. The G family claims that the foster son's father saved their son's life. Does that mean young Master G had to die for it? It's hard to believe that someone so ruthless could have a father willing to risk his life to save his employer's child. Maybe there's something more to that car accident from over 20 years ago. I fell into a daze. Back then, being in the midst of it all, I was consumed by grief and injustice. But thinking back now, the G family's favoritism towards Ethan was because the driver supposedly saved my life. But did he really save me? My sister said, All right, let's not talk about such heavy topics. She changed the subject. Speaking of the Yu family head, what a legendary comeback story. Her parents were in a loveless arranged marriage. After she was conceived, her father blatantly moved in with his first love. Her mother committed suicide due to postpartum depression, and the Yu patriarch refused to let the mistress into the house. That mistress and her son held a grudge for years. My sister enthusiastically shared the Yu family's gossip. Vivian's accident was orchestrated by that illegitimate son. After she woke up, she swiftly regained control of the Yu family, sending her dear brother to jail with a life sentence. Their father was so angry he had a stroke. Aha, it's like watching a real-life revenge drama. Mama L nodded. Thanks to the Yu patriarch, the family's vast fortune didn't fall into the hands of that illegitimate son. The Yu family head greatly values the patriarch's birthday. Papa H chimed in. The patriarch is actually quite a stern, traditional man. It's been tough for that child. I quietly listened to the condensed life story of Vivian, which carried heavy past experiences. I wondered if Vivian was the first awakened antagonist in this world. If so, I finally understood her obsessive nature. Because I accidentally saved her on a snowy night, she gave up on ending the world and pursued me for 3,000 lifetimes. She had never known love, which is why she craved it so much, clinging to any warmth she could find. As I pondered, the car stopped at the entrance to the Yu family estate. The Yu family home was bustling with guests. Vivian had firmly established herself as the head of the family, leading the group to greater heights. Whether or not they received invitations, guests flocked to celebrate. In recent months, the Chen family had also been a hot topic. Guests were intrigued by the eldest son of the Chen family, Zachary, who was born with a disability, but suddenly recovered and became a genius painter overnight. As the car came to a stop, all eyes turned towards me. People whispered, "This is Zachary Chen, the eldest son of the Chen family. His every gesture exudes the grace of a well-groomed aristocrat. There's no way he could have learned so many social etiquettes in such a short time after recovering. Maybe he wasn't really disabled. He just didn't like attending parties because he was busy planning his artwork. Otherwise, how could he suddenly produce such outstanding work? Zachary isn't just smart, he's a prodigy. Those paintings are beyond ordinary people's capability. Yes, he's an artist, so rumors are dangerous. Zachary just wanted to focus on creating at home, but people called him a fool behind his back. Rumors are terrifying. My image in the eyes of the guests transformed instantly. Society ladies eagerly engaged with Mama L, subtly introducing their single daughters, while many young ladies from distinguished families approached me. I responded politely and confidently. While conversing with a poised and elegant lady, I felt an intensely heated gaze fixed on me. Turning, I met a pair of bright red eyes. It was her. I asked, "System, is Vivian her?" In every world she looked different, but her eyes were always the same, filled with a near madness of deep affection. But how could she come to reality? The system confessed, "There is no so-called reality. This world, like those smaller worlds, is all transformed from novels. You and Vivian are just background extras. So I'm just an extra too?" I felt a surge of unwillingness. Why should the author casually write us a tragic short life with just a few strokes? We are not paper people. We have flesh and blood. We feel pain and shed tears. The system said, where there is a protagonist, there are naturally supporting characters. However, some protagonists have a skewed worldview, harming innocent supporting characters, causing small worlds to be filled with resentment and on the verge of collapse. That's why the main god binds taskers to go and correct the storylines. The system continued with a tone of lingering fear. I only recently learned that Vivian's soul fragments had scattered across 3,000 worlds. Originally, she intended to destroy each small world and then the main god. But she met you. Each time she fell in love with you, she would awaken the memories of previous fragments, piecing them together until complete, and return here. To be precise, the antagonist didn't chase you for 3,000 lives. She just fell hopelessly in love with you in every life. My heart trembled. In those thousands of worlds, I pursued a single goal with determination, to reunite with Victoria. In an unseen corner, there was someone who loved me with equal depth. The system, worried that Vivian might turn dark again due to unrequited love, said, "Because of you." The antagonist gave up destroying the world countless times and tried once again to love this world. She's not like Victoria. She truly cares about you. Tears glinted in my eyes. We both stubbornly loved someone who wasn't worth loving. We were both the biggest fools in love. The system read my thoughts and said, "How is it they're not worth loving? You dare to love and hate, resilient and unyielding, the perfect redemption for such madness. Throw that scoundrel Victoria out of your heart and let Vivian move in." My emerging sadness was disrupted by the system, leaving me momentarily unsure of how to face Vivian. I saw more of my past self in her, feeling guilt and pity. It's not love. After wholeheartedly loving one person, how easy is it to love another? As the system was getting anxious, Vivian approached me. Unexpectedly, she didn't immediately acknowledge me, but instead invited me to dance the first dance of the night. I placed my hand around her slender, soft waist, and our other hands clasped together. We danced at the center of the ballroom, moving to the music. Looking into those familiar eyes and sensing the fervent love beneath her calm exterior, I recalled the scenes of her silently guarding me through countless lives. I surprisingly felt a sense of peace. Even though the sincere family in Victoria discarded me like an old shoe, I could be someone else's precious treasure. Some guests whispered, "I must say Miss Vivian and Zachary make quite a pair." They both recovered around the same time. Perhaps it's destiny, a match made in heaven. The guests' whispers reached Zach's family. Mama L nudged her husband and said, "Old Chen," while Papa H stroked his beard thoughtfully. Perhaps because Eddie's recent work became a hit, Miss Vivian wants to collaborate with the Chen family, so she's showing goodwill to Eddie. Mama L suggested, "What if?" Papa H comforted her by patting her hand. "Miss Vivian is talented, a good child." Little Mel, resting her chin in her hands with stars in her eyes, said, "Will I soon have a sister-in-law? And from the top-tier elite family in Riverton at that." Mama L quickly stopped her. "Don't talk nonsense. Maybe Miss Vivian doesn't mean it that way." Little Mel held her mother's arm. "Oh, Mom, I'm just happy for my brother. It's good that brother caught Miss Vivian's eye. Anyway, I won't be like Melody, who got her brother killed and then had a child with the murderer. How could a sister do such a thing?" Papa H sighed. The Sincere family used to be a top-tier family, and within months they fell to a lower tier, not even having the face to attend Mr. Yu's birthday banquet. As the family of three talked, the music in the ballroom ended, and Vivian's hand remained on my shoulder. Her palm, separated by a thin layer of fabric, pressed against my firm skin, conveying a warm and ambiguous sensation. Her obsidian eyes gazed at me, and she asked, "In this life, should I call you Zach?" She remembered the stories of those 3,000 lives and recognized me at first glance. I was deeply moved. Her eyes were long and profound, with a hint of coldness in front of others, but when looking at me, they were always filled with an overwhelming deep affection. I had refused her countless times. Perhaps this life would have a different ending. Under Vivian's expectant gaze, I slowly raised my hand, my cool fingertips gently touching the tear mole at the corner of her eye. I said, "Long time no see, Vivi." Vivian's eyes turned red with excitement and her body trembled. In the first life, I was the crown prince, and she was a little beggar in the snow. I saved her and named her Vivi. After 3,000 lives, she finally heard this name again. Vivi. Vivian remembered the time she became the first female general of the dynasty, fighting fiercely against enemy troops, sacrificing her life to protect Syncere's empire. She fought bravely. Clutching her victory, she died covered in blood in Syncere's arms. His embrace was so warm. In every life thereafter, she used her life to protect him. He was her prince, her light and salvation. When all her memories returned and she came back to reality, she thought she would never see him again. It was such a relief that he was still there. Vivian had so much she wanted to say to her long-lost prince. But before she could gather her thoughts, a hysterical shout came from the corner of the banquet hall. A figure rushed toward them. Syncere had heard that the eldest of the Chen family would attend the Yu family's birthday celebration. Victoria had escaped her family's old mansion with great effort to come here, losing one of her shoes in her haste. She finally saw her beloved, but the scene before her deeply pierced her eyes. There he was, standing in front of another woman, gazing at her lovingly as if no one else was around. That woman would be recognized by Victoria even if she turned to ashes. In those little worlds, Vivian had pursued Syncere relentlessly. Unable to hold back any longer, Victoria rushed forward, but before she could get close enough to reclaim her lover, the bodyguards swiftly pinned her to the ground. Victoria looked up at Syncere, tears streaming down her face. She said, "Syncere, I finally understand how you felt. Believing we could reunite only to see your beloved with someone else. It's a terrible feeling." Vivian's face darkened. "It's this woman," she said coldly, as Victoria seemed oblivious to the murderous aura. She pleaded tearfully, "Syncere, don't abandon me. Come back to me, please." Vivian's tone was icy. "Miss Victoria, please have some self-respect." Victoria said, "Syncere, I was wrong. I hurt you." She suddenly withdrew her hand and slapped herself hard twice. "I was too selfish before. If I ever do anything to wrong you again, let me die a terrible death. I've cut all ties with Ethan and have mobilized the entire Liu family to destroy him. I love you, Syncere." My expression remained indifferent, as if she were an unimportant stranger. I said, "Miss Victoria, you've mistaken me for someone else." Desperately, Victoria struggled and said, "It was Ethan who took advantage of me when I was drunk." "I didn't mean to," Vivian asked. "The first time was an accident. What about after that?" She looked down at her coldly and sneered. "The difference between humans and beasts is that humans control their actions with their willpower, not letting desire and instinct take over. If you can't even tolerate a little loneliness, what right do you have to talk about love?" Victoria shouted, "I just made a mistake. I can change. Syncere loves me. He could cross 3,000 worlds for me. How could he possibly give up on me?" Vivian's aura turned icy, not out of jealousy but out of heartache. Syncere's genuine feelings had been wasted on this fool. Mama L could no longer stay silent, her gaze icy. "Nonsense, Victoria. The rumors are true. You've lost your mind. Syncere has been driven to death by you. What does my Zack have to do with you? If you dare to entangle with him again, the Liu family won't be able to stay in town." Victoria cried out painfully in my direction. "No, Syncere, say something, Syncere." Sophia, rushing upon hearing the news, nearly fainted at the scene. She grabbed Victoria and slapped her twice. Mama L, her face frosty, said, "Mrs. Liu, your daughter startling my Zack is a small matter, but disturbing Mr. Yu's birthday? Can the Liu family bear that?" Sophia's face drained of color. Offending both the Chen and Yu families was a disaster for the already shaky Liu family. The Liu family might not survive. Sophia scolded, "You fool." She made Victoria kneel, but Victoria was only focused on pleading, "Syncere, don't abandon me. I truly know I was wrong." Sophia's vision darkened, her already hunched back bending further. Her hair white as snow, she struggled to remain upright, trembling as she apologized to both families. Due to Madame Yu's tragic marriage, Vivian had always been wary of romance. Now, seeing his granddaughter showing interest in a talented young man with impeccable looks, background, and character, Mr. Yu was beyond pleased. How could he allow the minor Liu family to bully his future grandson-in-law? He sternly warned the Liu family. Sophia stood nervously, repeatedly apologizing. Rest assured, Victoria will never appear before Mr. Chen again. Once in the car, Sophia seemed to age another 10 years. Just months ago, she was still the dignified Mrs. Liu. Now she looked like an old woman. Victoria said, "Mom, he is sincere. You recognize him too, don't you?" Sophia turned mechanically, looking at her crazed daughter with sorrow and despair. Her voice aged, she said, "In the past, I would have been happy for you to place your feelings for Sincere onto Zach. The Liu family wasn't in decline then, and Zach was still naive. You two would have been a good match." Victoria shouted in desperation, "Mom, why don't you believe me? He's Sincere, my husband. We were supposed to marry 6 years ago, even 4 months ago." Victoria said with a heart-wrenching voice, "We almost got married." Sophia, with a mix of pain and disappointment, replied, "Then why did you cheat in the first place? You couldn't let go, and now you've turned your life into this." Victoria clutched her head and wailed, "Sincere, I was wrong, I truly was." Sophia was both heartbroken and frustrated at her daughter's inability to progress, finally speaking earnestly, "Zachary is not someone you can desire. The Liu family is not what it used to be. Nowadays, even just the Chen family alone could crush us. Continuing this way will only destroy the Liu family, the life's work of your father." Before Sophia could finish, Victoria lost consciousness. Deciding to take action, Sophia instructed the driver to turn around and head straight for the hospital. Her intention was to have her daughter checked, to see if she had indeed lost her sanity. Unexpectedly, the doctor delivered terrible news. Lady V's physical condition is rapidly declining. No one knows when she might fall asleep and never wake up. After the birthday banquet, Vivian first arranged to meet little Mel. By catering to her preferences, the two quickly became close friends, sharing the same bed. Simultaneously, the Yu and Chen families collaborated on several projects, each yielding substantial profits. Papa H had always admired Vivian, and now he couldn't wait to pack me up and send me over. As for Mama L, her best friend happened to be Vivian's aunt, who often spoke highly of Vivian to her future mother-in-law. The aunt, eager to establish a good relationship with the main family, did her utmost to promote the marriage. Hearing this frequently, Mama L also came to see Vivian as an ideal daughter-in-law. Subsequently, Vivian used the excuse of liking cats to visit our home. Holding a tabby cat in my arms, I teased, "A distinguished lady from the Yu family, what kind of cat don't you have? Why must you come to see it all the time?" Vivian didn't hide the strong affection in her eyes, saying, "Because it's unique." I looked up, meeting her deep, starry eyes, and couldn't help but blush. Warmth filled Vivian's heart. Her prince was truly wonderful. Suddenly, Vivian noticed a few cat hairs stuck in my hair. Instinctively, she reached out. When her fingers touched my hair, a powerful surge of electricity coursed through her body. Regaining her composure, Vivian realized how forward her actions were and was about to apologize when she noticed something, causing her to smile with curved eyebrows. I hadn't objected. It was a good sign, indicating that she was slowly making her way into my heart. Vivian was patient. She believed that one day she would completely own her prince's heart and soul. Vivian lingered until 8 in the evening before leaving. Just as she left, little Mel teased, "So reluctant to part. How about setting a date and getting engaged, Vivi? I'm waiting to celebrate my brother and sister-in-law's wedding." Mama L helplessly tapped her daughter's forehead, saying, "You child, your mother hasn't even prepared the dowry yet." Hearing the Chen family's tone, Vivian blushed bright red, almost turning around to run 10 laps outside. But her visit this time was to deliver documents to Zach. She said, Eddie, this is the information you asked me to find. Victoria just caused a scene at the birthday banquet, claiming I'm sincere. It's inconvenient for me to use the Chen family's influence to investigate the old affairs of the Ji family, so I entrusted her to help. Vivian guessed that I was indeed sincere. Thinking of everything I had been through, she was both angry and heartbroken. She said, "That car accident years ago was orchestrated by Ethan's father. A few days before the accident, he found out he had late-stage stomach cancer. Unwilling to leave his young son behind, he staged the accident, using his life to make the Ji family owe him a huge favor. But who would have thought? Who would have thought the Ji family would be so short-sighted?" Vivian had no fondness for her former father-in-law, mother-in-law, or sister-in-law, only deep hatred. How dare they? I trembled, clutching the document. I had finally uncovered the truth, emotions of anger and resentment swirling within me. Vivian asked, "Eddie, are you okay?" I stared at her blankly, then held her tightly, my tears soaking her clothes, my muffled voice carrying heartbreaking grievance and relief as I said, "Vivi, I don't owe him." The next day, evidence of the driver's deliberate staging of the car accident was placed on Harrison and Melody's desks, along with proof of Ethan's bullying and isolating me during school. After seeing the appalling evidence, even Harrison couldn't suppress his anger. He gritted his teeth. "Ethan, I thought you turned against Sincere for Victoria, plotted to kill him. I didn't expect you started bullying Sincere since elementary school." Slamming the table, he shouted, "Because of you, my life's work has gone to waste and the Ji family has suffered endless ridicule. We've been raising a snake in our midst all these years." Ethan nonchalantly replied, "Melody is pregnant with my child. So what if I bullied Sincere? Are you going to kill me to make amends? Don't forget, it was you who provoked the Shu family. That's how the Ji family ended up here. It's your incompetence that you can't compete with others." "Don't blame me," Ethan retorted, pulling out his trump card once again. "Papa H died because of Sincere. The Sincere family owes me, and they'll never repay it," he said, his voice dripping with bitterness. Harrison's face grew darker with each word, until he finally slammed a chair to the ground in a fit of rage. "How dare you bring that up? For over 20 years I've been played for a fool by you and your father." His voice echoed in the room, filled with anger and betrayal. Ethan was taken aback by Harrison's reaction. "What do you mean?" he stammered, confusion etched on his face. With a loud smack, Harrison threw a file in front of him. "See for yourself," he commanded. Curiosity piqued, Ethan picked up the document. As he absorbed the content, shock sent him reeling backward, as if he held something terrifying. He tossed the papers away and murmured, "How can this be? Why is it this way?" He clutched his head, as if trying to keep it from exploding. The revelation hit him like a truck. Sincere hadn't caused his father's death. It was a deliberate act by his father to stage a car accident. The truth lay bare before him, shattering the innocent and heroic image of his father that he had held dear for so long. The hatred that had fueled him vanished, replaced by a void of confusion and helplessness. For over 2 decades he had lived in a cycle of mourning and hatred. Now he realized he had been wrong all along. Suddenly a voice broke through his turmoil. "It's bad, something's happened to Miss." The butler rushed in, panic-stricken. Ethan, alarmed, stumbled and scrambled to where the commotion was. Melody was there, clutching the same damning evidence. Her usually bright eyes stared at him, lifeless, as blood pooled beneath her, reminiscent of the car accident that had claimed Victoria and Sincere's fall. He had made too many mistakes in this lifetime. Was this his retribution? Despite his loathing for Ethan, Harrison couldn't stand by and watch his daughter lose her life to a miscarriage. "Call an ambulance," he shouted urgently. Ethan followed them, his eyes vacant, haunted by the icy visage of Sincere. The face he had once despised now appeared in a different light. Without Sincere, his father wouldn't have died, he had thought. But Sincere was the one who had been caught in the crossfire. His hatred for Sincere was baseless. Ethan's life, neither excessively long nor short, had been consumed by this animosity for 20 years, leaving little else. How had he ended up like this? Staring at Sincere's ghostly face, he uttered, "Sincere, have you come to take revenge on me? How ridiculous we both are. Ha, ha, ha." The child couldn't be saved. Ethan sat blankly by the hospital bed, silent. Melody lay weakly on the bed, her hand resting on her still swollen belly. The late-term miscarriage had nearly cost her life. Her mind drifted to the past, to the brother who had once protected her with unwavering devotion. "He was only 5, she said softly. From that day on, he carried the burden of a life, suffering countless injustices. Her voice was barely a whisper. "My brother never meant any harm. I misunderstood him all along. Victoria was right. I'm not worthy of being his sister." Tears welled up in her eyes. "I'm sorry, brother. And I'm sorry for the child," she wept. Ethan stared into the void, numbly listening to Melody's cries. The child was gone, and Harrison would no longer shield him. Ethan spoke, his voice devoid of emotion. "Melody, I drugged you. I climbed into your bed to get pregnant as a means of protection for myself. You were too naive, bearing all the blame and never revealing the truth. Now that the child is gone, there's no reason for us to continue." Melody looked at him, her tears flowing uncontrollably. "I know you don't love me, Eddie, but I fell in love with you when I was 18. I felt for your sensitivity and vulnerability. But why? Why were you so cruel to my brother?" Ethan's attempted smile faltered as he pondered. If he hadn't obsessively sought revenge against Sincere, if he hadn't gotten entangled with the cold-hearted Victoria, perhaps things would have been different. But the vendetta between him and Melody over her brother's death left no room for a future together. Melody's tears soaked her pillow. "My brother is dead. Mama L is severely depressed. The Sincere family is on the brink of ruin. The child is gone, and our family is shattered. I can't protect anyone," she cried. With a bitter laugh, Ethan replied, "Papa H once called Sincere a jinx, but it was me. I brought so much calamity to the Sincere family." After a long silence, he finally spoke. "I'm sorry." In the hospital room, Victoria, a shadow of her former self, was surprisingly lucid, leaning quietly against the pillow, watching the live broadcast. Since her illness a year ago, she'd been sleeping more and more, knowing that one day she might not wake up. This was her punishment, and she had to accept it. Fortune smiled upon her this time, as she awoke just in time for Zachary and Vivian's grand wedding. Zachary bore no resemblance to Sincere, yet through his starry eyes Victoria saw a glimpse of the vibrant young man she once knew. On TV, he gazed lovingly at another woman. Victoria remembered, years ago, there was a man who looked at her with the same clear, bright eyes, his heart completely devoted to her. When did she lose him? Victoria gazed blankly at the man in his impeccably tailored suit. Victoria was once a bug in the gutter, trampled on by others. He was like a beam of light, forcefully breaking into her dark, decaying life and leading her toward the light. A deity descended to the mortal realm for her, yet she only wished to drag him down into the mire. She tainted him with lies and betrayal. Victoria's gaze slowly shifted to the woman in the pure white wedding dress. In Vivian, Victoria sensed a kindred spirit. They were both obsessive madwomen. The difference was, Vivian couldn't bear to harm him. She would stand steadfastly by his side on a grander stage, radiant and resplendent. Victoria had long understood that losing him was her just deserts. She had brought it upon herself. The hospital room door opened, and Sophia entered, leaning on a cane and carrying a thermal lunchbox. She said, "Victoria, you're awake. I made your favorite wontons from when you were a child." Listening to the laughter from the TV, Sophia didn't repeatedly stress that the man wasn't sincere. She sat by the bedside, opening the lunchbox. With age, she had come to terms with many things, like any ordinary mother, quietly murmuring. Ethan turned himself in. The verdict just came down, life imprisonment. He accepted it quite calmly. "I'm old. Can't hold on any longer. I trust no one, so I simply donated the Lou estate. Your uncles fought for half a lifetime, and in the end they got nothing. You should have seen their faces. It was truly comical. With tears in her eyes, she said, "Your father was a good man, loyal and devoted. If he were still here, he'd definitely choose one of your cousins to inherit the family business. But your uncles killed the person who cared most about them." Victoria ate the wontons her mother fed her, tears streaming down her face. On TV, the wedding was complete and Sincere became someone else's husband. How was she any different from those uncles? She too had killed the person who loved her most in this world. Sophia said, "I'm sorry, Victoria. All these years I was busy managing the Liu estate and forgot the original intention of your father creating it. He wanted you to be happy, carefree. It was my failure to take care of you." She was filled with regret. If only she had spent more time with her daughter. Would she have such deep childhood shadows? Would she have developed such a twisted and obsessive personality? If she had taught her daughter earlier to be a person of integrity, Sincere wouldn't have died, and she wouldn't have fallen ill with a strange disease. Holding the bowl, Sophia wept bitterly. She choked out, "Victoria, it's my fault for ruining you." Victoria replied, "No, I am the unfilial daughter." Her vision blurred, yet the pain in her heart was sharp and clear, preventing her from finding peace even in sleep. She said, "I failed Sincere and I failed you. In this life, I failed everyone." Victoria didn't know how long she had been asleep. It seemed she awoke intermittently, hearing that Zachary had become a father, received awards. The last time she awoke, her mother was too old to walk, unable to have the nurse bring her to see her. The nurses chatted about Zachary, saying, "Did you see the news? Lady Vivian officially handed over the family's head position to the young master just graduated from college and went traveling the world with Mr. Zachary. They said they wanted to travel and paint along the way." Another nurse replied, "Oh my, Lady Vivian has traveled a lot with Mr. Zachary these past years. I heard the young master was sent to train in the company at. Is this what they mean by true love between parents and the child being an accident? Ha ha ha." That person said, "Speaking of which, Mr. Zachary is a titan in the art world, winning various awards both at home and abroad. His paintings are worth a fortune." One nurse pointed to Victoria and whispered, "Did you know? She once caused a scene at Mr. Yu's birthday banquet, claiming Mr. Zachary was her deceased fiancé." Another nurse said, "I know. Her fiancé was the late young master of the G family, burdened with an inexplicable debt of gratitude, targeted by his foster brothers, betrayed by family and lover. It was truly tragic. Now that Mr. G has passed away, Mrs. G has become a nun, and the young master's sister is all alone. The once prominent G family has completely fallen. Victoria slept away half a lifetime. Would you call that karma?" A nurse replied, "Definitely. But poor young Master G. Sigh. If Mr. Zachary really were the reincarnation of young Master G, wouldn't that be nice? But that's impossible. That said, Mr. Zachary's life is quite fulfilling, isn't it?" Victoria let herself sink into the endless darkness again. She and Sincere hadn't misjudged Vivian. She truly loved and protected him as she promised at the wedding. He was living happily, and she was at ease.